Hello, I'm Fred Davies with The Wholesome Life, and today we're going to talk about the endocrine system, which is a system that impacts all of the body's functions. This training will give you a little bit of information about what each gland does, but we're not going to dig deeply into what the glands do or how to recognize these problems. You have muscle testing to recognize the challenges. This is more about what to test for the rebuild or the solution of the problem. And so that you can take corrective action and actually rebuild or correct the challenge that you have. Wow, there's a lot of endocrine glands. And this graphic shows that the endocrine glands go all the way from hypothalamus, pituitary, pineal gland, thyroid, thymus, clear through the adrenals and the male and female sex organs, the ovaries and testicles. And each one of those is called an endocrine gland because it directly puts hormones into the bloodstream. This helps the body act on or take action on low calcium, for example, in the bloodstream, or low thyroid in the bloodstream. It regulates the sleep patterns of our body and does so many other things. The way it works is that the hormone is put into the bloodstream when a need is recognized, and then the organ that has receptors for that receives it and acts on it. And then the hormone is changed because the action is done and the need is changed. So before I talk about each system, I want to actually do a quick review of what you're probably already doing on a daily or a weekly basis. And that is you're checking to make sure that all of your body functions are online. You're checking to ensure that your energy is flowing forward. And you remember to reset that energy with either the yoga pose that crosses your legs, crosses your arms, and zeroes it out at your chin, or with the 5 taps on shoulder or knee across the body with a total of 50 taps. So that resets the energy. And then you can use self-muscle testing to go through all of your body functions, organs, glands, systems, and so forth, and check to make sure all my body functions are online. All my glands are online, all my organs are online, and so forth. And then if you find something that's offline, in this case, we're going to go straight through the glands or the endocrine glands and talk specifically about how to rebuild each one of those endocrine glands. And so you would ask specifically, my blank, in this case, thyroid, is online. And if it's offline, you would simply go, there are blocks in my thyroid. There are hidden blocks in my thyroid. And then you know how to remove those blocks. Take the time to remove them and then reset it. I'm resetting my thyroid now with how many ever times it takes. And then my thyroid is online, and test to support what support is needed. My thyroid needs support. If that's a yes, then the items you'll see on each of the future slides are going to tell what things will help to rebuild your specific organs. This is not a comprehensive list. It is the most common ones. If you run into something that you're not getting yes answers for, drop an email, send a text, something, and ask, tell me what you're doing, tell me what you found, and ask, is there anything else we can test for, or maybe any help we can give, and we'll try and help you. So let's jump into the endocrine systems and see what we've got going on. The first one I'd like to talk about is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is found in the forebrain beneath the thalamus. That's why it's called hypothalamus. It's near the pituitary, and it actually acts directly with nerves directly to the pituitary. and the adrenal. And it has hormone control over the pituitary and over a lot of other glands as a secondary control through the pituitary in many cases. So what do you do if you find that your hypothalamus is needing support? Well, I'll only mention it on this one, but because it's the first one, I'm going to say make sure your nutrition is very broad. That's to ensure that your gut bacteria is healthy and is providing all of the nutrients that are needed to maintain a healthy body. Now, with healthy gut bacteria, all of the broad spectrum nutrition coming in, then we just need to know what the few things directly are that help the hypothalamus. First, mullein. In the glandular support formula is mullein and lobelia. Mullein by itself is very beneficial to the hypothalamus. Sleep and sunlight are absolutely critical. Are you getting out in the sun for at least 10 to 20 minutes every single day and the sunshine hitting your eye with no sunglasses on? Take the sunglasses off. You've got to get the sun hitting your eye to actually change the hormones and let them do what they're supposed to do. And that should be for a certain amount of time every single day. Now, if you're out in the sun and you're getting the other things, we'll go through some of the other areas where you can help and improve the rest of the glands. But that's the hypothalamus. It's actually the controller of many, many of the glands. But the next one we want to talk about is the pituitary, and the pituitary is called the master gland. It controls the thyroid and the adrenal. It controls ovulation and testosterone. It controls protein and fat use, and it also controls lactation, controls kidney, water reabsorption, and oxytocin to create the onset of labor, and also to start lactation and keep it going. And there is a formula called the master gland formula that will help that gland function well. And a single herb named Damiana that you can test for to see if your body needs those specific things for support. Let's talk now about the pineal function. It actually synthesizes melatonin from the serotonin that is produced by the gut. So your gut bacteria, healthy gut bacteria, produces 80% of the serotonin that the body needs. And your body then takes that and produces melatonin with it. You still need sunshine to make that production complete. Dr. Christopher's glandular formula will help in this case because it helps to feed that gland. And again, Damiana has a specific help in the pineal function. So test for that. Now, your thyroid and parathyroid are critical because they control the hormones that affect all of your body cells because they actually stimulate cellular metabolism. Thyroid hormones help maintain your basal metabolic rate and normalize your body temperatures. They help your bones absorb more calcium when they're told to. It does so many things. And yet, there are some females especially. Females have an 8 times higher rate of low thyroid than males do. And there's some specific things that you might recognize as low thyroid function symptoms. Dry, brittle hair, dry skin, and dry, brittle nails. The hair thinning out on the sides of the eyebrows or falling out. You might notice low energy, constipation, cold hands and feet or a general feeling of coldness. That's part of the symptoms that will tell you that you have a thyroid that is low functioning and needs support. Using your muscle testing then, check to see if your thyroid needs support. Notice that the thyroid also has 4 to 8 gallons of blood pumping through it every hour. That's the way it influences the other organs, is by putting things into the bloodstream. So using the bloodstream formula to keep the blood clean in either capsules or in extract may be very important for your thyroid. So test for that first and see if your thyroid just needs cleaned out and the bloodstream needs cleaned out. Then you can test for the materials that are needed to support the thyroid. These materials may be as broad as using the glandular system formula in capsules. There's also massage oil. You can massage right on the thyroid, on the neck, or an ointment that you can put directly on your neck and rub it in good to feed that thyroid gland, because it's right there in your neck. The other thing that you can do is take and test for the herbal thyroid formula or the thyroid maintenance formula, which is also available in kelp tea powder format. The kelp tea bulk formula is the equivalent or the same thing as the thyroid maintenance formula. The herbal thyroid formula does not come in bulk because it's not normally needed for more than a couple of cycles, although I know people who have had to use it for years in combination with the thyroid maintenance formula, and both in quite high amounts, to finish rebuilding their thyroid because it had lost so much vitality and so much of its use. The thyroid can be rebuilt. I've seen it rebuild. I know it can be rebuilt. Just needs the right materials to rebuild it in both hypo and hyperthyroid function. And your muscle testing will tell you what it needs. Next, let's talk about the thymus function. The thymus is right behind, right in the middle of the breastbone, behind the sternum. And the thymus, up until adolescence, plays a very important part in development of immunity. It actually secretes a hormone, thymosin, that stimulates the production of lymphoid tissue and lymphocytes, which become T killer cells, T lymphocytes, T lymphatic sites, and that's a good part of your immune system. The thymus needs vitamin A to stay healthy, so eating foods high in vitamin A, like the dark oranges and dark yellow vegetables and fruits, is very beneficial to your thymus. The glandular system formula, of course, in any of its formats, and then astragalus root is specific to helping the thymus. We'll mention more of some of the other adaptogens in just a moment for some of the other endocrine functions. Okay, your pancreas function. The pancreas, as you know, produces insulin to bring the blood sugar back down again. Maybe you've heard of glycogen. The pancreas also produces glycogen to bring the blood sugar up again. So individuals with low blood sugar have this section of the pancreas that's not working that produces glycogen, or perhaps the liver is not storing enough glycogen, sugar, to stabilize the sugars through the long period of time between meals and stuff. The pancreas also produces the pancreatic enzymes that are pumped into the small intestine so that the digestive process will have all of that alkaline enzymes in the small intestine to help the digestive process. What is the right support for the pancreas function? Dr. Christopher's granular glandular system formula will help if it's needed. Check for the pancreas formula and also check for cedar berries. Now, if you've got low blood sugar or high blood sugar, check to ensure to see if your liver needs support also. While it's not an endocrine function, those work tightly together to work with each other. Speaking of things that work together, if your pancreas runs low or wears out or is taking too much stress and trying to work too hard to help you have enough energy, often your adrenals will also be wearing out. The adrenals is the next one we want to talk about. Our adrenal sits on top of each kidney. And when signals from the hypothalamus come through that tell us we need to fight or flight because there's danger sensed, our adrenals will kick out and start producing more to help us fight or flight. Well, if we're constantly under stress or we lack nutrition, the adrenals wear out pretty quickly. And you can support your adrenals after you check for blocks, hidden blocks, and those kinds of things, as we went through to begin with. You can support your adrenals with Dr. Christopher's adrenal formula, which also comes in bulk in the adrenatone powder. Kava Kava is a powerful single plant support for the adrenals. And the adaptogens that are specific to support the adrenals are American ginseng, ashwagandha, Asian ginseng, cordyceps eleuthero, holy basil, licorice root, rhodiola, and schizandra. We'll talk a little bit more about those in a moment for support of the other endocrine systems. And it might be worth making a note that right now that the adaptogens help the adrenals because they help our body tolerate stress much better than 3 to 4 times more stress than we can normally tolerate. The next one I'd like to talk about is the male hormones. And you can muscle test specifically to ensure that the testicles and the prostate are online. Clear any blocks that you find and reset it, and then test to see if support is needed. The support that's available for the male hormones is male tonic and male urinary support. Hormonal changes available in capsules and extracts should also be tested for. Hormonal changes is expected to be used with one of the male or female. In other words, hormonal changes is both for male and female. As with many things, you might check for the bloodstream cleanse because you've got to be getting enough blood through these organs for it to work properly. Now the female support. With female support, I would start with red raspberry leaf at every age, beginning with puberty, clear through the end of life, because red raspberry leaf has the right things, either in capsule, tincture, or tea. You'll have the right things to maintain proper female function. The other things that help to support female function is the glandular system formula. The hormonal changes, as we mentioned, is for both male and female. And then you add on top of that the female tonic and the female reproductive formula. So you can test for any or all of those and see which ones your body needs. We mentioned the adaptogens. All of these adaptogens help the body handle stress, and many of them are specific to the functions of the endocrine system. You might test for these, and especially if you're under a lot of stress. Well, the best approach might be to reduce your stress and have less stress by improving or increasing your ability to handle stress by rebuilding your endocrine function, specifically with adaptogens. You might be able to get back a lot of that function that you've been trying to get back. Thank you, And at The Wholesome Life, we love helping you rebuild your full function. And I hope you've learned something today that you can use at this time or at some time in the future when you have an endocrine gland that needs some support.